Welcoming Tom to for the second time to the Hall of Fame is Dave Cowens. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Heinsohn.
Wow. You know, walking down the aisle and listening to some of the people here give a little speech, I was tempted, particularly on one person, Dick Vavetta. I didn't know he was that humorous. That kind of explains all the funny calls he made. It's mentioned that I have a long history, of course, with the Celtics, and I'd like to bring to you the attention of what basketball brought to Boston. What we had as a basketball team was a great manager of people. And he started something that was emulated by a whole bunch of coaches, including myself. Red Auerbach was a master manager of people. And when you're a master coach, I mean, you're able to get your players to give their total personhood to what they do, to give their body, their mind, and their spirit to winning. And Red accomplished this with a simple little thing. He listened to his players. He created within his own team what I call basketball's Casa Nostra, because he made us believe that the Boston Celtics and winning was our thing. That's what we had to do. Now, this element of listening would start in training camp, and he would come back and he would go up to Kutcher's in the summer, and he'd come back and he'd say, I was sitting by the pool and I thought about this play here. Let me show you what I think. And he'd run through the play and, what do you guys think? And each guy would massage this play. And he would implement some of the suggestions. Now this carried through the entire organization and every phase of the game. Even to the point where when we got down 10 points with 2 minutes to go in the game, and we broke the huddle and ended up winning the game, and Red Auerbach was considered a master X and O coach. And I'm going to tell you what he did to do that. What he did was, at the timeout in the huddle, say, has anybody got anything? Now, this was a masterstroke, because what happened, the chemistry that was involved in all of that, you were expected to tell him what you saw in the course of the game and how people were playing you or not playing you. And then you were expected to express this in front of your teammates, so that you, in essence, promised your teammates you're going to make it work. And we go out and we win the games. You know why? Because he'd go, well, we'll use yours first, yours second, yours third. And that's why so many of the Celtics really kind of ended up in coaching, because they were assistant coaches while they were playing. I took over after Bill Russell, but Red's style of play, the philosophy was to destroy the will of the other team to beat you. And his strategy was to put you to the supreme mental and physical test. And therefore, we had this up-tempo, fast-running game called the fast break that put you, including big guys, to the ultimate physical test of running and sprinting hard on every single change of possession. And what he did was to also implement an aggressive defense, and we had the ultimate stopper in Bill Russell. But this type of basketball, when I became the coach, I said, well, if it was good enough for him. And I went to, before I became the coach, I went into the life insurance business in a management capacity, and I found out just how smart this man was as a manager. So I decided I was going to use all his concepts. And the first thing we did was to consider how we were going to run. Now, Bob Cousy was long gone by the time I took over, and Bill Russell and Sam Jones, the pillars of the offense at the time, retired before I took over. So we had to find a way to play. And we ended up with this guy, the guy that would dive on the floor for loose balls. You ever hear of a center diving on the floor for a loose ball? I mean, he skidded. I think you saw it before. But what happened is we believed that by accelerating the pace of the game and by using a lot of people, in essence, you could beat the world's greatest marathoner. Suppose you were in a race against the world's greatest marathoner, and you were allowed to use a relay team. Imagine the pace that would go into the game. So that became, and people don't understand this to this day, that was the secret weapon of the Boston Celtics for over 30 years. The pace of the game, making the other team pay a physical price, making them have to run hard and think faster while they were running backwards. What a masterstroke. Well, I didn't have Russell, I didn't have Cousy, but I played with Bob Cousy. And for many years, I came up in the fast break, and because I was a big rebounder in those days. I could really jump. And I'd come up behind the play, and I'd see how Bob Cousy would read the defense to set people up. So I developed a system of drills where everybody could see the same situations that Cousy saw, even our big people. Now, who ever heard of allowing centers to run the middle of the fast break and handle the ball? But he learned to do it. Henry Finkel, who tripped out of the out-of-bounds line when he first came to Boston, could run the fast break and come up behind the play. So all of this was very, very effective, and Dave Cowens became the epitome of the smallish type center. We had the smallest team in the league at the time, a 6'8" center, 6'6" power forward, JoJo White, who was a terrific point guard at 6'3", and Paul Silas, the power forward, at 6'6". And yet, for several years, we led the league in rebounds. Of course, everybody rebounded. But what we did when the other team was forced to slow us down, and we were slowed down at times, was to make their big guys play small. We developed an offense where you may have heard Dave mention it, where we had no center. It was a 3-on-2 offense, nobody in the middle. Guess what? Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bob Lanier, Willis Reed. Do you think they ever had to go out and play defense on the perimeter until this guy showed up? Never. And it became really playing against this guy became a real test for a big man because we would run that big guy into the ground and we would then use this spread offense if need be and make him play defense on the perimeter. I had great players, JoJo, Dave, John Havlicek, Paul Silas, Don Nelson sitting here was an integral part of all this, Satch Sanders, Henry Finkel. All were terrific contributors and willing to maintain the pace of the game. Now I'm going to tell you this, it worked. We won a couple of titles, and I think we established that you could run. And right now, I still am waiting for somebody to truly have an up-tempo team. And when I do the broadcast and some coach tells me that they're going to run, and I watch a big man come back to take the ball out of bounds and then inbound it to the guard who's standing there while 4 men retreat back on defense, you lose the essence of pressure offensive basketball. So nobody's doing it like we did it. They should look at the old films because they're all trying to do this now. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to honor my family, my 2 sons, David and Paul, their wives, Carmel and Mary, my grandsons, Christopher and Adrian, my granddaughters, Danielle, Victoria, and a very beautiful Brooke, and my special friend, Karen Venart. So, thanking them, I want to finish with the most difficult thing that a coach has to do, and that's communicate. Communicate with his players. Now, I had, before Dave showed up, a guy named Henry Finkel, who was my center, 7-foot guy, not very athletic, had some shooting skills, but he really had difficulty running up and down the floor. So we're playing the great Wilt Chamberlain out in Los Angeles, and now I'm trying to motivate Henry Finkel to come up against Wilt Chamberlain, who scored 100 points in a game. So I brought him up to my room, and I said, Henry, you're going to play Wilt Chamberlain. Now, I want you to make sure when you have a shot at the perimeter, I want you to take the shot. Now, Henry wasn't very talkative, and all he did was go, mm-hmm. And I said, now, I want you to block him out as far out as you can. Mm-hmm. And I gave him about 5 more instructions, and all I got from Henry was, mm-hmm. Well, we go to play the game. And we're in the middle of the 3rd quarter. We're up 17 points, and Finkel is like going crazy. And he makes a particular play. They take a shot. He grabs the rebound. He jumps to the full extent of his leaping ability, all 2 inches. And when he does, he gets his finger caught in the net. Now, he makes a great play. Kicks it to this hand, throws it out, off we go. Everybody in the building is watching the advance of the ball. And here comes Henry up the floor. finger. I want to tell you, that's a challenge for a coach. I mean, that really made you think about communication. I failed the test because all I could think of was, and the same to you, Henry. Thank you very much.